Hi, everyone. Sorry for the delay in getting this going. It's been one of those days around here. So I had to set up my other laptop in a hurry, but we're here and it's going to be fine. Okay, so this is the first time that we are really taking a deep dive into budgeting. And it's really going to be a good thing because really all of our chairs need to understand the whole budgeting process, how it works. It helps you keep much better control of your event. And the things that we'll be, looking at tonight are, I can't read this because this stupid box is in the way, but you can read the slide yourself. Okay, so this is the budget worksheet. And where is it? It's in Drive. And when you open it up, you'll notice that it has 3 tabs at the bottom. One is for pre-event, one is for post-event, and one is a calculations page, which is very helpful, but we'll discuss that a little bit later. Also, on the left-hand side, when you open it up in Drive, there is a coding help there. All right, let's see if this will go. Well, that didn't do what I wanted it to do. Okay, slide 4. Okay. So this is the income overview, the top half of your budget worksheet. When you're done, you need these lines to add up to your budgeted goal. And Brian and I will tell you a little later about how your budgeted goal is calculated. And you'll see it has sponsorship, matching gifts, wraparound, and participant revenue. We'll talk about how you get all of this. So sponsorship income. Mature sites can base this on your previous years. So if last year you were able to get, $4,500 in sponsorship, that's where I would start for pre-event budget. New sites, either talk to the staff or really sit down and think about how much do you think you'll be able to get in sponsorship? Well, gee, I think I could sell 10, route signs at $75. And maybe we could get somebody for 500 and start like that. And that's fine. What your rule of thumb is, your goal for sponsorship should be in the 10 to 20% of your total revenue. If it's more than that, great. That's wonderful. We love that. The other line, one of the other lines is raffles and silent auctions. Now this refers to raffles and silent auctions on walk day. Again, new walks should put 0 in here because if you're a first year event, you don't need to be fussing with raffles or silent auctions unless you have a dynamite committee. If you have a dynamite committee, that's a little different story. But for the most part, new walks, don't worry about raffles and silent auctions on event day. If you're a mature event, then, and you've done raffles and silent auctions at your walk before, then, put in what you did last year. Okay, participant revenue. Now, this should be basically your total walk goal minus your sponsorship, minus your raffles and silent auctions, minus your wraparounds. So this is really the number you leave for last. You do everything else first and you leave this for last. Because, again, other wraparound events, and you all know what wraparounds are. It's events you can run all year round. That could be painting with a twist. That could be, restaurant night. That could be a bake sale. Anything that you do all year round to raise money. And then there's an other line for something that we didn't think of, but we need you to detail that. So again, what you want to do is take your budgeted goal, say your walk site goal is $20,000. You subtract your sponsorship, you subtract your raffles and silent auctions, you subtract wraparounds, and that should give you the participant goal, which all should add up to your $20,000 overall walk goal. Okay, let's talk a little bit about expenses. You know, overall, we need to keep expenses really as low as possible while still producing a quality event. You know, in-kind donations decrease expenses. So as much as we can get donated in kind, meaning food, water, equipment, rentals, anything that we can get donated that we don't have to purchase saves money on the expense line. And that's what we want to do. Okay, we're going to go into, these are the DDB expense lines. So what are DDBs? DDB stands for direct donor benefit. Direct donor benefit. So for HA, we assume that every participant, or most, are also self-donors. And throughout this segment, I am going to sound like a broken record, although a lot of you may not know what that even means. What it basically means is I'll be repeating myself a lot, talking about why something is a DDB. And why is it important? Because everything that we do for the walk, all of those line items on your budget worksheet, the revenue, the expenses, the DDBs, all flow up through HA's accounting system to the overall numbers for the financial numbers for the organization. The numbers that Brian, who you're going to meet shortly, reports to the finance committee and to the board. So, you know, the walk isn't out there all by itself on an iceberg off to the side. Everything we do for the walk flows up through the entire accounting system. So it's really important. And I'm sure you're all familiar with the pie chart, which shows you basically, you know, how much of the money that we raised went to the mission, how much was spent on what they consider to be, you know, administrative and fundraising expenses. And last year, you know, overall, the organization, 78 cents of every dollar went to the mission. And we're always trying to improve that number. The calculations page, which is the third tab I mentioned to you in the budget worksheet, is really helpful, especially if you're doing this for the first time, because we have some sort of guidelines in there. And we understand that everything in there won't apply to every walk site. It depends upon the size of your market. But for instance, we say in here, you know, figure on renting tables for $7.50 each, figure on renting chairs for, you know, $1 each. Figure on $400 for food if you had to buy everything. Figure on $100 for a 10 by 10 tent, although you can buy one for $50 on sale. But the calculations page is really good at helping you figure some of these things out. Okay. So going back to the DDBs, and you'll notice up here, 214630, that's our coding, and we'll talk about that in a little more depth later. But this is everything that is a DDB or a direct donor benefit is a 4630. And anything that's 4630 for the general ledger code has to be a 21 activity code. So t-shirts are ordered and paid for by the national office. We can give you the number that we're going to be sending you, and you can estimate the expense at $4.95 a t-shirt plus 33 cents for shipping per shirt. So it really comes out to $5.28 per t-shirt. And the actual expense, what we actually sent you, we can give you at the end of the year when you're doing your post-event roll-up. Bandanas, we order those and we pay for them. You estimate those at $2.50 each. And again, we will provide you with the actual expense. So why are these DDBs? T-shirt is a DDB because the back of the participant shirt has sponsored names or logos on it. You know, you get those locally imprinted, remember. And that is a benefit to the sponsor. And the sponsor is a donor. So it's a direct benefit for the donor, for the sponsor. Volunteer shirts. You know, all of your volunteers, I hope, are registered as walk participants and are raising money and or a self-donor. You know, we always assume that all of our participants have made their own donation. So they're self-donors. So they're participant/donor. So volunteers, their t-shirt is also a DDB because they are a donor and they're getting the t-shirt in return. The participant identifiers, the bandanas, again, we assume all of our patients at the walk are registered participants. They've probably made their own donation, and so they're a self-donor, and they're receiving something in return for that donation. Site venue fees. We also consider these to be direct donor benefits because venue fees are recorded as DDBs. Remember, your participants are also donors, and it's because we're providing a place for the walk. We're providing a place for this fun event. And it's otherwise the participants/donors wouldn't have that. Just a quick note, if your venue fees or deposits were prepaid in 2020, if you paid them before the end of the year or you paid them early last year and then didn't use the site, we need to record it as an expense for this year. Local t-shirt imprinting. As you all know, if you've done this before, if you don't, we'll go over it in our newbie meeting pretty soon. The back of the participant t-shirts are imprinted locally. You find a local screen printer to do that with sponsor logos, the national sponsors and any local sponsors that you've obtained. Again, refer to the calculations page. Estimate for your local t-shirt imprinting $1.65 per shirt. You may be able to get it for less. It may cost you more because you may only have 3 dozen t-shirts, in which case the price is going to go up. And that's fine. But if your quote to imprint the back of the t-shirts more than $2.50, talk to us. I mean, we have had chairs ask us, is $5 too much? Yes, $5 is too much. So if in doubt, ask us. A great suggestion is to ask your local screen printer who's doing the backs of your shirts to be a sponsor, and he can put his logo on the back of the shirts if he cuts you a break or does it for free. So why are the t-shirts, the local t-shirt imprinting a DDB? Because we're imprinting sponsor logos and names on them, and that benefits the sponsor. Entertainment. So entertainment, DJs, clowns, mascots, face painters, balloon twisters. Again, always ask for a donation or discounted. But again, those are all considered DDBs because they add to the fun, festive atmosphere at the event. And this is something that the donor/participant is receiving in return for their donations. Printing collateral. So what is collateral? Collateral is all of the printing of brochures, posters, flyers, save the date cards, anything that is distributed. And they all should have sponsor logos on them. If you don't have any local sponsors when you're doing the save the date cards, they should at least have the national sponsors, because then it's a direct donor benefit to our national sponsors. So when you're figuring out your budget, you want to think, how many brochures do I need? Most sites won't need more than 250. If you have a great committee that's going to take them and put them in every neurosurgeon's office, then you might need more than that, but most people aren't going to need more than 250, and calculate that at 43 cents each. Save the dates are 12 cents each. Flyers, $1 each. Banners and signs, which are not mission message signs or directional, but are signage for recognizing sponsors or recognizing event day sponsors, like the Publix food tent. Those are all considered DDBs because, again, it is giving the sponsor recognition. They are getting a direct benefit for their sponsorship. Walk day food and beverage and or kickoffs. So a lot of sites won't be having a kickoff. It's not appropriate for all events. And this year it's probably just not a good idea until we're further along in the COVID journey. But kickoff food and beverage is also considered a DDB. Event day food and beverage is considered a DDB. Again, anytime you're going after these things, ask for donations. Our last ditch is buying. And then we don't want to pay retail. If they won't donate it, ask if they'll do a 2-for-1. If I buy one, will you give me one? At the very least, will you give it to me wholesale price? So again, refer to your calculations page. If you're not holding a kickoff on your pre-event budget, just enter 0. And we are really suggesting for 2021 that all our walk sites go back to basics, meaning let's not do pizza, let's not do, a lot of post-walk food. We're doing refreshments. We're not doing breakfast and lunch. We're doing refreshments. Denver, Phyllis has come up with the idea of having her walkers bring their own brown bag lunch this year. It not only helps us with all of the sanitation issues, COVID issues, but it will also save the walk chair from having to go out and get a lot of that stuff donated. So do be thinking about that. We don't need the hot dogs, the pizzas, and no frills. And frankly, I think this year of any year, our walkers will understand. I think they're just hungry to get together. And I don't think they're going to care too much about the frills. Equipment rentals and purchase, again, considered to be a DDB because the tents, the chairs, the tables, they all contribute to a fun event, which is a benefit to our participant/donors. The trucks, the stage, the AV equipment, porta-johns, all of that stuff. Popcorn machines, snow cone, cotton candy. That's all considered to be a DDB, a direct donor benefit. This year, we're strongly discouraging popcorn, snow cones, cotton candy. We don't need food that is open and could easily be contaminated. We're really suggesting you stick with fruit, especially oranges and bananas, because nobody touches anything that is eaten, and prepackaged grab-and-go food, snack foods. Recognition gifts. So recognition gifts is the gift HA gives to participants who worked hard to raise money to qualify for that specific gift. You know, is this a DDB? Of course it is. Because if you raise $75, you receive a t-shirt. If they raise $250, they receive an additional recognition gift. If they raise $500, they get a slightly better gift. So those are all something that the donor / participant is receiving in return for their donation. So it's considered a DDB. And when you're budgeting for this, take 3% of your participant revenue, not your total budgeted goal, not your overall goal, but your participant revenue, which you broke out in your revenue, and use 3% of that as your best guess estimate. At the end of the year in January, we can give you the actual numbers on how much your recognition gifts were for your post-event actuals. The post-event volunteer reception. So this, you'll note that this is considered optional. But if you're not holding one, I might be tempted to strongly suggest that you do. What is a post-event volunteer reception? Very simply, it's an event for the event day volunteers and committee members. You hold it 3 or 4 weeks after the walk. What happens at a post-event volunteer reception is you get everybody together. You ask them, how did the walk go? What can we do to improve it? You get their input from what they did the day of the event. Not only is it really helpful to know what they think about how their area went, if they're really into it and they say, you know, I think we could do better at food distribution if we did this, this, and this, that's someone you want on your committee. That's a great way to find some new committee people. And honestly, for a post-event volunteer reception, we're talking simple. We're talking, you know, pizza, soft drinks, and beer. Nothing that's going to cost very much. Obviously, if we can get it donated, so much the better. If you can get the pizza and soft drinks donated, and you can go to a local park and pick up a case of beer, and you're good to go. But it's a really great way not only to find out what everybody thought, and maybe come up with some good suggestions, and maybe come up with good new committee members, but it's also a way to keep those volunteers coming back next year. You know, you always want to retain your volunteers so you don't have to retrain them. And again, for 2021, an outdoor location would be your best bet. Plaques and awards. So I hope most of you aren't spending much on this line item. You know, really what would fall under this, it would be a prize for your team t-shirt design contest. But most of our sites that hold team t-shirt design contests get the prize donated. It's either a dozen fancy cupcakes or maybe a $25 Walmart gift card. It doesn't need to be elaborate. And don't forget, participants don't want to see the money that they helped raise going for a plaque. You know, these are families. They don't have a wall at home for plaques and trophies. Not for this kind anyway, most of them. The one place I would recommend that you consider using this is if you're a mature walk and you have a sponsor that has been with you since day one. I think, you know, at 5 years, at 10 years, at those milestone years, I would encourage you to get a plaque made and recognize them. Make sure that they're at the event and present it during opening ceremonies. You know, the best recognition you can give someone is public recognition. That is the best incentive. So I would just say it'd be nice. You want it to be classy, but simple. You know, present it to ABC Corporation for their continued support of the Walk to End Hydrocephalus, you know, 2015 to 2020, or whatever it would be. But if you have questions about that, always talk to staff. Postage. So anything and everything that is mailed that has a sponsor's name or logo attached is charged to a direct donor benefit, a 4630-21 code. You know, even pre-event flyers sent to all registered participants, all of those should have sponsored logos on them. Again, if you don't have local cash sponsors, you have local in-kind sponsors. We can put their logos or names on it, and definitely the national sponsors. And any other postage, anything you mail that does not have a sponsor's name or logo attached goes to ongoing operations expenses, which we'll talk about shortly. Okay, shortly is now. Okay, one thing before I get into this, when you are coding your credit card expenses, and Brian will go into this in more depth, anything that is considered a DDB or direct donor benefit is coded 4630-21. Anytime that you use 4630, it must be coded 21. And also remember, just because it's an expense for the walk does not mean it's a walk expense. Walk expenses are direct donor benefits. Now we're into ongoing operations expenses for a walk. And that's like the primary difference. So postage and shipping, again, not including materials with sponsored logos. This would include if you shipped volunteer t-shirts to another walk site because they needed some. When you ship your donation envelopes to Phyllis, that is not a direct donor benefit, that's an ongoing operations expense. So it would be a 6,732. 32 means walk education and support. So use this category for estimating postage for materials. Again, walk day envelopes to Phyllis, pre and post donations to Phyllis. Remember, every time you get a check-in, whether it's before the event or after the event, it goes to Phyllis. Receipts mailed to Marina, office mailings, volunteer tees, functional banners. Anytime we ship something to you, we code that to your walk under 6,746.32. Local printing and copying. So this is for anything that does not include a sponsor's logo. So Randy, what would I print that doesn't have a sponsor's logo on it? Well, job descriptions for your committee members and or your event day volunteers. Everything that goes into the registration packets for event day volunteers. Flyers or one-day event descriptions before you have obtained volunteers. Sign-up sheets for the waiver, the volunteer sign-in, site maps, anything again that does not have a sponsor name or logo on it goes to this code, 6832. Signs and banners. Again, this is for any sign or banner that's not recognizing a sponsor. So this includes directional signs or informational signs. You might have a sign that you put on one of the yard signs that says, t-shirt contest 9:15 at stage. That might be in your main staging area. So that would not be a direct donor benefit. There's no sponsor name or logo on it. Functional area banners and which are the ones that say food tent, participant registration, t-shirt distribution. Those banners are all charged to $6,832 because they're not giving any donor a benefit. And mission message signs, you know, we print those, we laminate those, and we send those to you, along with the yard signs and the H stands for first year events. Those are all charged to your walk. And, you know, it's only the first year because you keep them year to year. And we charge them to $6,832 for you. Okay, supplies. So anytime you can, let's use coupons, let's watch the ad circulars, let's be really smart shoppers, and let's keep expenses as low as we can. Use discounts. You know, my favorite shopping place for walk is the dollar store. And I mean the real dollar store where everything is $1, not the dollar store where sometimes things are $3 or $5. So we're talking, you know, pens, paper, ink cartridges for your printer, table covers, clipboards, those all go under supplies. And in Drive, there's a great document that the chairs have shared on their best free or cost-saving tips. So make sure that you check it out, and if you have a great idea, add it to that. Automobile mileage allowance. So use this at your discretion. Not everybody files for this, but you know, some walk chairs do. We know that you use your personal vehicle for a lot of running around for the walk before the day of the event. We allow each walk site, not each leader, but each walk site to ask for $150, to charge $150 to the walk. So that will fill your gas tank a couple times, or your gas tank once and your co-chair's gas tank once. Depends upon who's doing the most running around. But we know that you do use your car to go ask for sponsorship, to pick up and drop off banners, to go pick up water, to pick up fruit, to pick up grabbing everything. So we get it. But if you are already going that way, you know, if you're already going to the post office and you're shipping something to a walk chair, you know, we're just asking you to be cautious and responsible about it. But we will go up to $150, which will fill most people's gas tanks at least 3 times. Okay, event insurance, nothing is required of you for budget purposes. That's already in there. Our umbrella policy covers all of your sites. It comes out to about $150 a site. If your site requires additional insurance, talk to the staff, and we would record it here. And other is, and I please use this sparingly, please use it sparingly. It's for expenses we didn't think of, but most expenses we've thought of. If you're not sure where it goes, call us and ask us. At the bottom of your budget worksheet, you will see that there's a couple of things that are really important. And when you're done entering all of your numbers, it will total up all of your revenue. It will total up your DDBs, subtotal your DDBs, subtotal your ongoing operations expenses, and then give you an event net at the bottom. That net is how much of what you raise is going to the mission. So if you have brought in, if your revenue is $20,000 and you have spent $3,000 between DDBs and ongoing operations expenses, then $17,000 is what is going to the mission. It will also calculate a percentage ratio there. And we really want that ratio to be 80% or better. So we want the amount of money that is going to the mission to be 80% of your revenue or better. We've also added at the bottom a line for in-kind donations, because we are tracking those. Brian is reporting those numbers to the board. It's great for the board to know that we got $127,000 worth of stuff donated that we would have had to pay for, but we don't want it to affect your revenue or your expenses. So it's at the very bottom. It's just to remind you to keep track of those in-kind donation values. Post-event actuals, that's the second tab in that workbook. And after the walk is over, we really need you to fill this out. And funny thing, it follows exactly the same format as the pre-event estimates did. So now after the walk, 3 or 4 weeks, you'll know how much you brought in. You'll know how much you spent. And frankly, most of your expenses will probably be on your M&T credit card. And you should be able to easily categorize that if you've been coding those monthly the way we need you to. So you're going to summarize all your income from the current year, run the sponsorship report from the Event Management Center. If you don't know how to do that, be happy to teach you. Matching gifts, if you think you have some matching gifts, we'll run that report for you. You should know what you brought in the day of the event for raffles and auctions. You should know what you brought in for wraparounds throughout the year because you have submitted it to Phyllis. And then participant revenue, which would be, again, you can run the report from your Event Management Center, or you take your total revenue, which is actually on your webpage, and subtract the sponsorship, matching gifts, and wraparounds. And then again, summarize all of your expenses. Again, most of it's going to be on your credit cards, except for the expenses we pay for. And we are happy to tell you what those are. You just need to ask us because we don't remember to tell everybody what they are, but do ask us. The bottom line, again, the event net will automatically calculate. This is an important number, and I don't think we've ever stressed this enough, but this is really how much of the money you raised is going to the mission. And if you raised $20,000 and you spent 10, that's a 50% expense ratio. That's not good. We really need 75, 25, 80, 20 or less. Overall, nationally, I believe the walk expenses run about 15%, but that's an average, that's the cumulative total of all of our sites. Some have an 8% expense ratio. Some have a 22% expense ratio. So I think it comes out to about 15% at the end of the year. Okay, again, we talked about this. We just want you to track those in-kind donations. In Drive, there is an in-kind donation tracking form, and we really need you to use that because, again, Brian is now reporting those numbers to the Finance Committee and to the board. And we want the board to know how hard you are working on getting things donated. And now I'm going to turn it over to Brian Saphier, who is HA's Chief Financial Officer. Brian, do I have to do something here to give it over to you? I'm going to stop.
I don't think I can take control. I think you're going to have to flip the slides for me.
Okay, you tell me when.
Okay.
I was going to say, I made you co-host if you want to share.
Yeah, but it's on Randy's computer.
Let me stop sharing and see if you can bring it up.
Oh,
you can't. You don't know where it is.
I mean,
okay.
I could, but I didn't prepare to bring it up.
Okay,
Why
no problem.
Just bring it back.
Let me go back.
Bring it back.
Share. There we go. Okay.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be able to join you tonight. I wish we were doing this in person, but obviously, you know what it is. I was really excited last year to go down to North Carolina and hang out with you guys at the hotel bar, but obviously that didn't happen. So hopefully next year we can all get together in person. but I also wanted to take a minute just to thank you all for what you guys do. It's so important to our mission, and you guys are the lifeblood of this organization in terms of bringing in revenue and creating awareness for our mission. And it really is appreciated by the staff and everybody. And then if your jobs weren't hard enough, 2020 happened. So that, thank you again. And I know that there's probably, some concern out there in terms of how HA is doing, given that so many businesses and nonprofits right now are really struggling. So Randy thought it would be a good idea if I gave you a quick 2020 status update financially so you guys know how HA is doing, and especially in terms of the walks and how they did. You guys did an amazing job last year pivoting to the virtual walks, and revenue was down from 2019 by about $700,000, but you guys still brought in over $1.3 million to the organization. This was a 34% decrease from the previous year, but compared to a lot of other organizations out there, they were seeing 50 to 60% declines in their events. So you guys did a really good job of keeping this train moving, and it's definitely appreciated. Randy's talked a lot today about expenses and how important it is to try to control them. And it really was noticeable last year because obviously we did not have as many expenses doing it virtually, and we saved $185,000 in expenses. So you can really see it's not chump change we're talking about. We're putting on these walks, and that money really cut into the revenue loss from last year, and it really saved us. So in the end, HA really did have a very successful year overall. We saw our cash balances increase by about $450,000 from year end, which when other organizations were really struggling. Our 2020 walk revenue was about 40% of HA's total revenue of $3.5 million. And I wanted you to know, sort of where your efforts are going. The money you guys raised helped us spend $1.1 million in research last year. We were able to fund 2 clinical networks, one for adults, one for children. We funded 3 new research innovator awards, and then we also spent another $220,000 on supporting the HA community and advocating for them. So it's important, and you guys do help so much. Randy was talking a lot about budgeting, so I did want to. I would focus a little bit on the importance of budgeting because it is important. It's not just a paper exercise we give you to keep you busy. It really helps us plan the rest of the year. As you know, most of our walk revenue and our walk expenses, it comes in towards the end of the year. And so it's really nice to know early in the year, as best as possible, what we're going to be looking at towards the end of the year in terms of having what cash is available. Because the research grants that we give out, it's a long vetting process for them. And so ideally, the sooner we know how much money we're going to have, the more we can give out, the easier it is to give out. And we do, as Randy said, we do report these budgeted numbers to our board of directors, and they do hold us accountable to them. So your efforts are really appreciated here. As Randy also likes to mention, that it's important to be fiscally responsible with our donor funds. You guys know how hard it is to bring in money from a donor, and so every dollar you save in an expense is basically like a dollar that was brought in by a new donor. And so you guys do such great work bringing in money. You can also double your efforts on saving us money, and your impact goes so much farther. And I also wanted to mention that, especially this year when Randy's asking you guys to really cut your expenses, I wanted you to know that it's not just you that we're asking. The staff we're asking our staff to step up too. We've cut our budgets in terms of travel, in terms of supplies. Unfortunately, we had to cut some of our research budgets. And we even asked the staff to begin to chip in for their health insurance benefits where they didn't before. So we're not just asking you guys to take the brunt of this. Everybody is. All right, Randy, if you want to switch the slide. Okay. So you all should have received your new card in an email from me and how to set it up and everything. I know this switch and learning a new system is a bit of a hassle, but we are really excited that we switched banks. We're excited to be with M&T, and we think that, and we're already starting to see HA get a lot of benefits from it. Some of you out on the West Coast may not be familiar with M&T, but it's a pretty big bank on the East Coast. And if you're a fan of football, you probably heard of them because they have the naming rights to the Baltimore Ravens Stadium. So we ask that you guys use the card responsibly, not for personal use. Obviously, we do understand that accidents happen, and we'll take care of that and talk about all of that later. We do want you to code and complete descriptions in the M&T Bank portal every month. It's really important that we can see what you're spending the money on, and so we know. We ask that you complete it by the 9th of every month, and this is actually really important because those numbers, some of you guys may know Kenise. She goes in and she pulls that information and she uploads that directly into our financial software, and that helps me complete our financial statements on a timely basis each month, which is really important. When you're in there coding your expenses, you can split your charges if necessary. You can split it up basically as many times as you want. We do ask that you submit receipts when you're coding your invoices. It's great for Randy and Marina and Phyllis to see them, and you never know when an auditor is going to ask to see your receipt. So there are 3 ways that you can submit your receipts. You can upload them through the portal. You can upload them to expense folder that the walk team has set up for you. And then this one's really cool. You can now email the receipts to your username at centersweep.com, and it'll automatically go to, when you log into your account, you'll see it, and then you can attach it to the charge on your credit card. It's actually pretty cool. So for example, if you buy something from Amazon and you have an electronic receipt, instead of printing it out and scanning it, you can just email it directly to them and it'll go right in. And one extra note, and I don't have a date yet, but a mobile app for this is coming soon. So that will make your jobs even easier. If you have a receipt, you can just take a picture of it right from your phone and put it in the mobile app whenever that comes out. So hopefully in the next few months, we'll start seeing that and I can get out information to you on that. Randy, if you want to switch. Okay, so coding is important. Like I said, it does flow through all the way to our financial statements. So if something is miscoded, it will show up wrong and no one catches it, it'll show up wrong on our financial statements. Phyllis and Marina created this great cheat sheet, which we're going to see in a second, but it's probably going to be too small. That should really help you out. We did want to mention that our walk, you guys are not the only ones that have credit cards in the organization. Most of our staff and some of our community network leaders have credit cards also. We have nearly 100 credit cards out there. So if everybody does not code their own expenses, it's quite the burden on the staff to try to catch up and do it. So it's really important that you guys do it, and we do appreciate that you do it. Okay, so this is the cheat sheet. It's probably a little too small, but you'll see that you can, and Randy had mentioned this too, you can see that your activity code you can choose from is 21 or 20 or 32. And I just want to take a second to tell you, when you probably want to use one or the other. And a good rule of thumb is if you're asking for money or it's a DDB expense, then you're going to use 21. So if you're setting up a meeting with a potential donor, you're asking for money, that's going to be a 21 expense. Pretty much anything that is not a DDB or you're asking for money is going to go to 32. So that's sort of the rule of thumb. If you're asking for money or it's a DDB, use 21, everything else is 32. If you want to flip, yeah. So these are just a few of the codes that you're probably using most. We already talked about the activity code and then the 21, the 32s. As Randy mentioned earlier, all DDBs are going to be coded to 21. And here are a few general ledger codes. 4630 is the walk expense for all DDBs. Randy's talked a lot about DDBs and explaining what it is. I want to take a second to explain why it's important, and why we want stuff coded there when it's accurate. Because this actually really helps, the way DDBs, this really helps our mission allocation percentage, because DDB expenses actually don't count as expenses on our financial statements. They're an offset to revenue. So these fundraising costs don't count against us when our mission percentage is calculated. And so when our development staff go out looking for major donors, or you guys or they go out looking for grant opportunities, mission percentage is something that almost everybody looks at, and they really want nonprofit organizations to have the highest possible mission percentage. So when you guys code stuff there, it does really help us, and it does have an impact. Randy, you want to flip it? Okay, so we talked about how accidental charges do happen. This is the code that you want to use if it does. Activity code 99, GL code 1300, and for the project code, you'll just put 000. You don't need to put your walk site. And then let Marina or Phyllis know, and they'll tell you what to do. But you will need to reimburse it. But obviously, we understand that stuff happens. Our staff does it from time to time also as well. So that's it. I don't know if you guys have any questions. I'd be happy to answer anything, whether it's about the credit cards, about walks, about HA in general, our finances, or, my favorite color. I don't know, whatever you guys want to know.
Randy, can you go back to the slide with the pie chart, the allocations? Because I think we probably should have put that where Brian was going to talk about it, just so people could see again sort of that allocation. So there it is. So as you can see, the different percentages there, and how much is going to go. 78% is going towards our mission and programs, right? Which is what those donors, sponsors, if any of you guys have ever had to fill out, some of the bigger organizations, ask all kinds of crazy questions about what we're doing with the funds that we collect. And so that's why when we code to that DDB, it won't go against that number.
Exactly. And it's just it was 78%